Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking 102.62 dot color masking. If you read the description, you know sometimes I struggle down here to, get just that right piece for you guys every week. And it just so happens that this week I'm presenting you guys more of a work in progress than a perfectly finished and executed piece. I've been working on this dot placement design for years. And because I'm really shaky, I've just never quite gotten that perfect pattern. And I just wanted to give it another try and kind of share with you guys the whole process of a slightly sloppy bead. But other than that, I just want you to know that if you have a hard time with dot placement, you're not alone. I'm there all the time with you guys. Sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. And this is just one of those designs that I am continuously working on. So if I ever get it right, I will absolutely share it with you. But for now, it is, a slightly sloppy, beautiful dot pattern in color. So with that said, I hope you guys all enjoy this one and maybe give it a try. And on that note, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, let's get started. So what I want to do before I even start the bead is I want to pull a stringer of color, and this is going to be the color that I will be putting the tiny dots on with. So I want a nice, really thin stringer, and it's cold down here, so my this rod of turquoise wanted to continuously crack on me. So I just kind of, got it warm. If you have pieces dropping on the marvering pad down there, you can go ahead and pick them up as long as they don't get dirty and just, keep melting them in. And, once I have a nice big ball hot, this is going to be a long stringer. This ended up being like 3 feet long. I'm going to just take my time and just start to very gently pull it out. And then once the edges kind of start getting dark, that's when I give it a nice long tug and I end up with several feet of really thin turquoise stringer. All right, let's go ahead and start this bead. And I'm going to start out with my base color, which is turquoise. And I decided that I would go ahead and, I kind of want a large bead to start out with. If I start out too small, then my dots are so tiny I can't even, I can't get my dots that small, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I have to start out with a size bead that I'm comfortable with. And if you want to do this pattern, do the same thing. If your dots are naturally on the small side, it doesn't have to be this big. It can be a little smaller. But I'm essentially looking for kind of a round shaped bead. And I always like to start out by getting my first row of glass on there and, just rounding it out, making sure my edges are, right where they need to be. And then I am going to just add a whole nother layer of the turquoise. This is kind of a strange color. I love this color. However, look, it's still cold. I love this color, but there is something about it. Like if your flame is slightly off, it will start to reduce on you. So you want to be real careful using this turquoise. I did have a little reduction at the end, but it wasn't horrible. Okay, so I'm just going to melt that in so I have more of a rounded shape. I'm not going to roll this out anymore, but I do need it a little wider. So what I'm going to do here is add one more nice big wrap around the equator, and then I'll just completely melt that in, and that will give me the size that I want to start this bead with. Now keep in mind you're going to be adding a lot more color to this through your dots, so it will get bigger. And I just take my time melting everything down and just getting to the base bead that I need to before I start putting all my pattern on. I want this bead to look as nice as possible before we do these dots. And this time I decided, I love doing black and white masking. It's like my favorite. I almost never do masking in color, but a few people have asked about it, and I thought, well, this is the time to do it. So I thought I would grab two completely opposite colors on the color wheel. So I have a red and I have my blue. And this is like a medium red here, and it's a kind of a large rod. And I'm going to start adding my dots. And I'm only grabbing as much heat as I need to from the side of my flame. That's how I can control the size of my dot every time, is just heating on the side of the flame and just getting that same amount of heat every time. If you notice that your glass rod is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, you are way too deep into the flame. Okay, so I only try to heat my glass rod from the side. And here I've laid down a series of dots right on the equator that are just a little bit, far apart from each other, just a little bit. And here, honestly, you guys, I could have used a stringer for this. But no, I decided I'd use this nice big rod still for the smaller dots. And when I'm doing this, what happens is I lay the glass down, I push it down, and as I lift up, it kind of creates a point on my rod, my red rod there, and that point I will heat up and use for the next dot. So each one is exactly the same size. And then I'm going to add a little bit more where I think I need to. Okay, I'm going to turn this around and do the same thing on the other side. I did have to do this. Okay, I did this a couple times. If I don't start out exactly on point with my first set of dots right here, I will just immediately start over again because I just don't want to waste any more time. I know it's not going to look good, so I'm just start over. And here I was happy because the dots are looking good, and what I want to do is make all the dots, all the dots on the top and bottom the same size. So I'm adding extra dots to the edge dots there. I'm just building them up a little bit more. All right, now I'm going to heat these up and completely melt and incorporate them into the background. And I'm going to do this by very gently heating in the middle of the flame. And I am constantly heating the whole bead from one side to another side. I don't usually hold the bead just right in the center and hope for the best. I need to make sure that heat is really on all sides of the bead. So I'm moving my bead around the flame in order to get, that heat as even as possible. Once you get there, it takes a little bit of time to cool down, but I'm going to let it cool down until I can see the pattern. And I'm thinking, you know what, this looks okay. So let's continue. So at this point, I want to start working with this turquoise stringer. And the idea behind this is really simple. All you're going to do is add 4 dots on each red dot, like a cross, but you're going to add these dots right on the inside of the red dot, right on the inside. Your blue dot could almost be touching the turquoise on the outside of the red dot. And I'm just going to start to lay these dots out on each circle. And I will do it differently every time. Sometimes I just get bored and, I'll do a whole, 4 up, and then, or I'll do every, top one. You know what I mean? As you see what I'm doing here. Then I'm going to just heat everything up when I'm done with that. Make sure those dots are secure. And then I'm going to go ahead and add 4 dots in the same pattern to all of the bottom dots here. And I will do, so many dots, and then I need to give the whole glass a reheat. If you are spending too long on your dots or adding your dots, and then you go to reheat and your bead breaks or you have dots falling off, it's simple to fix that. You just need to maintain your heat more in the glass overall while you're working. Sometimes you need to add maybe 6 dots and then you have to reheat, or 2 dots and give it another reheat. Either way, it's a constant adding and heating of the bead while you're going through this process. Okay, now that I've done one side, I am ready to kind of flip this around and finish the other side here. Now it's interesting working with the red and the blue or any colors when it comes to masking, because when, like, for example, the red is really nice and it stays, especially this red, it stays red throughout the whole dot. But when it comes to the blue, you see like an outline in the blue. You see different colors in each blue dot, different shades of blue. And I can't tell you how frustrating that is, but sometimes I've seen it done where it looks just fantastic with the color play and how the colors react to each other. Sometimes I like the effect and sometimes I just can't stand it. So it really just depends. I didn't mind the way this came out, but when you look at it really up close, you really start to see like, all the flaws. Okay, so I've done adding my 4 dots to each one of the big dots. And here I'm just going through, and if you're going to add a dot somewhere, you need to add it to every single spot that, that relates to that spot throughout the whole bead. And what I ended up doing here was, you have these little 2 dots next to each other here. Well, I don't know what I was thinking, but I put an extra dot in the center because I was worried that I didn't cover up the red enough. I probably shouldn't have done that. I think I should have just stayed with just 2 dots and not filled in the middle one this time. But it is what it is, and I just kind of had to go with the flow. And I thought what was cool here, now that we're heating, all of our dots are here, and we're heating the whole thing up now, and it's a very slow, gentle heat. And what you're looking to do is get everything to melt down at the same time, so you're constantly moving your bead around, trying to get everything to get to the same glow. Here, we're finally getting here. I'm feeling pretty good about this until it cools down. So here we're going to let this cool down so we can reveal the pattern that we have. And at this point I'm thinking, you know what? It doesn't look that bad. Not so bad this time. So I'm going to push forward and add my final dots here. And these are very teeny tiny, I like to call Swiss dots. They're just teeny tiny dots. And I'm using, it's red stringer. And I'm just going to add them in the center of all these little blue areas. I just kind of felt like they needed something extra there. So I'm going to add these in the center, and I'll add a little bit on both sides as well. Now, when I'm working with a stringer like this, you can get really, really super tiny dots by just kind of barely heating up the stringer and touching your glass, and then coming back up into the flame to release that stringer, and it will leave a little dot there. But what am I trying to say here? You also want to be real careful that you're not overheating your stringer. So I'm kind of just slightly getting my stringer hot and then touching the glass and using the flame to break the stringer away just on the very edge. I'm barely in the flame here. And also think you might need to turn your flame down for the smaller dots. So think about that too. Anyway, I'm just kind of looking this over, seeing if I need anything else. And I think I'm done here. So at least for this time, I hope you guys enjoy this one and give it a try. And I will see you all next time in the dungeon.